watch has 4:30. We're going to go ahead and start. Hopefully, as you came in, you should have gotten two pieces of paper there on the corner of the desk if you want them. One page front and back is a draft calendar if the board votes to go to a 4-day week, and the other one is an agenda, a revised agenda. First thing I want to say is if any of you are getting texts from friends saying, hey, I can't get in the building, door number 7 on the east is keyed open, and door number 1 on the west here is keyed open if anybody is having trouble getting in the building. Second thing I want to mention, if any of you would like Spanish interpretation services, Daisy is sitting over there. Daisy, wave your hand. So if you want to address the board or if you want her to interpret what's being said, just make your way over by her and she'll be glad to do that for you. I am going to apologize in advance. When the sun gets a little lower, there's probably going to be a really big glare off of my head. I can apologize for that in advance.
I'll film it.
Okay, make sure you get that. All right, so number 1 on the agenda, announcements and housekeeping. We've gone over most of that. I do feel like we need to have some norms and behavior expectations. I know this is a very emotional topic for people, and I get that. I understand that there's a lot of potential for angst with what we're talking about, and so I do feel like with us all being adults, we can still have a civil discourse, and everybody will get an opportunity to express their opinion on the subject. Donna, how many people are signed up to talk? 12 so far? Okay. So looking at the norms, A, please conduct yourselves in a professional and respectful manner. B, please don't interrupt or talk over people. C, anybody who's here will be given the opportunity to share your opinion. That is, with the caveat, if you signed up with Donna, if as you came in you changed your mind and you would like to speak, go put your name on the list and we'll definitely give you the opportunity to do that. I feel like everybody's opinion in this type of setting is of the same value, the same worth, so everybody that speaks will get the same time limit. That'll be standard for everybody. And then speakers will limit their comments to the 4-day school week. That is the discussion item that we have for the evening, the only discussion item. Does anybody have any questions about the expectations? Okay. The other handout that you got was a 4-day school week, and I just want to spend 1 minute explaining that to you. You'll see in big letters on both sides, draft. There is no such thing as an official 4-day school week calendar because the board has not approved a 4-day school week. It is a voting item for the board on Monday. If they vote to have a 4-day school week, then there will be a calendar. This would probably be a pretty close approximation of it, but again, that would be dependent on a board vote. Any questions there? Okay, it's a relatively small group. I don't think anyone is going to need to move to speak. I think you'll be able to be heard, especially if everybody follows our norms. With 11 people, Donna, let's give everybody 4 minutes each to speak. She'll tell you when it's time, and if you would please, if you're still talking, finish your sentence and then be done, and we'll move on to the next speaker. And she's just going to go down her list and call out your name. Any questions before we get started? All right, Donna, go for it.
We have David Jones.
All right. So thank you, Dr. Kraus. I'm the NEA Vice President. When the new calendar was published, we have surveyed all our members, which include professional full-time educators, teachers, as well as staff. We represent both here in the St. Joe's School District. Currently, as of today, and we will give an updated report on Monday, Dr. Kraus, but as of today, 65% of the teachers and staff support the 4-day calendar as it currently stands. So a majority of teachers and staff, at least in our membership, support it. I want to speak privately, though, apart from the NEA vice president role. I spent 26 years in human resources as a senior HR director. For 9 years, I taught graduate school human resources. And I spent 9 years doing full-time recruiting duty. So this issue of recruiting and retention in the 4-day calendar, I'll just speak on a personal note. Anything that you can do to get time off to the workforce is a plus for recruiting and retention. And so on a personal note, I applaud the district for proposing this proposal, and I hope the board approves it. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
James Soames?
I'm good, I'll pass.
Teresa Jewell?
Hello, thank you, Dr. Kraus, and thank you to all our board members who have spent so many hours on this. We, as teachers, really appreciate the support you give us and also the support you give the public and our parents. I would like to say that as a teacher, I do support the 4-day week, and I'll just give you my own personal reasons. Many of you know teachers spend a lot of personal time working on lessons, working on data, everything that's included in just keeping our kids motivated, keeping them growing, keeping them moving where we need them to move. That being said, for me, that 4-day work week means that I can give that extra time, I can give that extra energy, and I can still feel like I got a weekend. You know what I mean? Time for myself, time for my family, time to recuperate. I think for every teacher, like has already been stated, anytime you can give somebody time off, time to recuperate, time to rejuvenate, time to be able to be there for our students like we need to be. You know, some of our students are very high need. We need to be on top of it all the time. And just that extra time that we need to be where we need to be and be doing what we need to be doing. So, thank you.
Kelly Robb?
I just had a curious question. Do you know what the teacher minutes are, the difference between the current schedule and what the 4-day week schedule would be?
I can tell you total teacher hours in the current calendar was 1,154, and in this one is 1,089, I believe. That's within 2 or 3. Don't quote me on the last one. I know the first one's 1,154. I think it's 1,089. The state required minimum is 1,044, and then there are 6 snow days built in there at an average of 7.25 days.
Thank you.
Sure.
Dr. Kraus, can you say what the state required minimum was again?
1,044.
Thank you. Jan Jewell?
Hi, thank you for allowing this time to speak. And I just was concerned about the student-teacher FaceTime. And with academics being a stressed area in the St. Joseph School District and all schools, I was concerned about not having enough time with the student. There's no doubt we need extra time. That's a reality, but I think if you're committed, and that's just my personal opinion, that 5 days would not stop you from taking a job. Thank you.
Certainly.
Teresa Simmons?
Hi. My question is directed only to Ms. Garcia. Since she's head of this committee, I'd like to ask her to answer this question for me.
Are you all right?
In lieu of what I'm thinking, oh yeah, if you're not all right, I won't. It's not, in lieu of the 4-day week not passing, which is my understanding is pretty much a 50-50 draw right now, I'd like to know what your message is to your staff of the St. Joe School District and teachers right now as to what will happen. I mean, there's been no discussion of pay, no discussion of salary, no discussion of anything else. So here we are. If this gets voted down Monday, we're way behind the 8 ball when it comes to recruiting and retaining teachers. So many of the other districts are already signing contracts and recruiting our teachers. This district is famous for bringing a salary schedule and raise in March and forcing the board to make a vote without full information, and contracts are due out in April. So my question to you is what is the alternative now? We don't seem to have any kind of a plan to do the retention or recruiting a new teacher, because we're hanging in limbo on this. I noticed today there's 44 teacher openings in the district right now, with 6 more to be approved for your Monday night personnel meeting. So that's 50 openings we already have that are gonna have to be filled. I don't know how you recruit a new teacher without having a salary to tell them what they're going to be making. So my question is, why isn't it on the agenda? Why isn't there more information out there as the alternative to the 4-day not passing? And that's my question to you, because I think you should have that information that you can provide to the staff. So, what would be your message to the staff?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great question, and I know that I've voiced my concerns about the 4-day school week, and I don't want the teachers to think that I don't support them. I don't want to support them. My biggest concerns have been the students. But I do know that we have an issue with the workload, we have an issue with the pay specifically, and that's something that I would like to consider. Like you said, there's a lot of districts that pay a little bit more and have a more competitive pay, although the state offers the same starting salary for certified teachers. And that's because those communities are investing in their communities, or in the educational system that is in their communities. So I think we're falling way behind. This is a conversation that we should have had a long time ago, and I think that's a way to start. We need to increase the salary of our teachers, not only our teachers, but also the support staff. So this is, the 4-day school week is a good thing because it alleviates some of the stress, but at the same time, long-term, are we going to be able to keep our teachers? Is it something that's going to be satisfying, or are the workloads going to be even more to our teachers and staff where they're going to feel overwhelmed? So considering all the factors, I think it would be another solution to this.
My concern is, and there were 16 support personnel on the report for Monday night that are resigning. So my concern is that discussion is not happening
Right.
side by side with the 4-day work week. Why are we not having both discussions at the same time so that staff can be informed about, do I stay or do I push that button and go? Or a new teacher coming out of college, do I come there? Because we don't even have any pay schedule to recruit on. So
Yeah.
that's my concern, is I don't understand why we aren't having that discussion at the same time that we're having this other discussion,
Yeah.
instead of having it jammed down a board's throat in March to where you're forced to take the vote with no alternatives.
Yeah, and again, that's another valid question, is we should have this discussion, and I apologize for not having it on the agenda. Going back to your comment about jamming it down your throat, that's how I feel about this 4-day school week. I do know that some administrators and board members have expressed that we've been talking about this for 6 to 7 months, 7 to 8 months, but we have not openly had that discussion or talked about plans, talked about calendars, talked about programs until January, or since January.
Yeah,
So
don't disagree with you at all that it wasn't a completed program when it was presented. Don't disagree with you at all on that. But the salary discussion is also a long time, 20 years worth
Yeah.
of salary discussion. And I talk about a levy, it just doesn't get it. Because even if you passed a levy in August, it wouldn't take effect for salary schedules for 2 years. I mean, it's not like an immediate fix. So that's not the answer either. It's got to be an open discussion now, I'm sure.
Definitely.
That's what I'm saying.
Ms. Simmons, can I reply to some of the things that you had mentioned? So I agree with you. I think that has to be, it can't be an either-or discussion. You can't talk about 4-day week or pay. To me, you have to do both. You have to make the job easier, and we have to improve competitive wages for our staff. What concerns me about the idea of a levy or increasing pay is one of these strategies we have control over, the other one we do not. So we can talk about a levy, you know, Ms. Garcia mentioned that she wants a community that invests in its school district. We all want that, for sure. But we can control the decision on a 4-day week. I cannot look at these teachers and say, we're gonna get you a raise. I can't guarantee that. I can tell you I will use my one vote to put a levy on the ballot. I don't know if 6 others will, and I don't know if it will pass. But I can also tell you that it is within our power to give you a 4-day week. One I can guarantee, one I can't. Yeah, you're right, I can't, I heard the whispers over here. I can't guarantee that either. There you go.
It wasn't
I can't
me.
hear, oh, it's cool.
For real.
I got it, no, that's fine. I can't guarantee either one, but this board has control over one and not the other.
Dawn, let's go to the next speaker, please.
Steph Simmons?
I wasn't gonna talk, I wanted to talk, but there are a few things that I think it's important that the community knows. One, 4 days, 4 longer days. So FaceTime is still gonna be there with the kids. It actually might make our day feel a little less cramped having those extra minutes on those 4 days. Going to 4-day will not make the job easier. It will just allow us to work on a Monday and not take away from our families on Saturdays and Sundays or Friday nights, or Tuesday nights, or Wednesday nights, or Thursday nights. I don't think people understand how much time it takes to write good lesson plans, to reflect on student work, to think about your day, and then diagnose what you're gonna do the next day for each individual student. We don't just walk in and say, oh, today's a Monday, I'm gonna teach. It takes hours of prep work before every single day that we walk in there and teach. It takes hours of prep work for us to miss a day to be sick. So something else is that on Mondays, I know that substitutes are a big issue. Well, we're human. We have doctor's appointments, we have dentist appointments, things that we have to do for our health insurance. They run the same hours we do. They're not gonna stay until 6 o'clock because we're a teacher and we have to show up to get our teeth cleaned or our cavity filled. So on Mondays, we can take those appointments on Mondays. Our children can have their appointments on Mondays instead of needing a sub on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There's pre-planning. It would also, that would make the job easier because we wouldn't have to write sub-plans for those things. That piece would be easier. And I also, I know that there's a board member that does not believe that an experienced teacher makes a difference in front of kids. I'm here to tell you, as somebody who has taught for 21 years, my classroom is very different than a student teacher that we've hired. My classroom is very different than a first-year teacher. And we all start somewhere. I was a first-year teacher too. My classroom was a lot different than it is now. Experienced educators make a difference. And if this board votes down a 4-day week, in my opinion, they forfeit the right to ever ask any admin in our district, why are your academics low? Why is your behavior terrible? Why is your staff attendance terrible? They have provided you a solution that has worked in other districts, and some of you are just la 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 because you have personal reasons that you don't want to do it. Experienced educators make a difference. And I have the data from other districts. Lathrop has had 4 days for years. They have 10 openings, 4 of them are teaching. Independence, been a year. They have 6 elementary teachers, 14 high school. That's it for the whole district. Osage has been 4 days for years. They have 0 teaching, 0 para positions available. Our district, just from December, January, and February, only, I couldn't even go back any farther. We have 70 open positions, 31 are teachers. That is 44% of our openings are teachers. Nothing in our school system will get better if we are not hiring experienced people. And I know I'm passionate about it, and so is everybody here that's sitting here. We have to recruit people back, and they want to come back. I know for a fact we have people that have interviewed, and they said, I will accept this job after the board votes on Monday night. And if they vote it down, I'm out. That is a fact. Dr. Krause can't tell you yes or no, but it is a fact. So the board has a decision to make. You either move this district forward, you improve behavior, you improve academics, you recruit experienced people back, or you're satisfied with how things are going. Because it's not getting better. People are not staying because our pay is not going to increase. That's just how it is. End rant.
Gerald Reynolds,
I'll pass.
okay? Jack McMillan, or Jacob McMillan?
You're fine. When I first heard the idea, initially as a parent and then as a student that grew up in a district that was extended family for my family to help us transition to adulthood, it was hard to think we're cutting the frequency of time that our students have with our teachers. I know the minutes are the same, but 5 days out of 7 means a lot for kids that come from broken homes. And so it was hard for me at first. I appreciate the district having independence and interviewing that superintendent. I've learned a lot. I would say I probably have moved from the never ever camp to the if we could do it well, let's try it. But out of the independence meeting, we heard that they discussed it for 12 months before a vote. And then we heard there was a 6-month implementation period. And that's 18 months. And so for people like me that are slow to the game, and I hear the teachers, I live with one, I know you guys are frustrated. But for us who are slow to the game, that are just used to the 5 days and think that the greatest asset in our district is you guys. The greatest thing we have is building staff. You guys change lives, you impact lives, you give hope, you encourage them. And to put our kids of our community with you 5 out of 7 days is the greatest thing we can do. And it's hard for me to cut that back to 4 and think 35 minutes at the end of the day is equivalent to that extra 6.5 hours on a Friday. So my hesitation is actually my appreciation for what you guys do. I really appreciate what you do. But Independence also said that they have been doing childcare for 30 plus years. I'm a graduate of 21st Century at Sycamore Hills. They've been doing it over 35 years. And we have not been doing it. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration when we're putting this plan in place, that our child care is going to take longer to develop and longer to get in place than a district that already had it up and running. So I think the implementation period, or how long we take to put this up there, it was worrisome that at the work session they called it preliminary conversations. To vote on preliminary conversations and not a finalized plan, as a citizen, that worries me. If it is a good idea, and it sounds like it may be, let's finalize it, let's inform the public, let's cross every T and dot every I, and let's do it the right way and rebuild the trust that we can do things the right way. And so preliminary plans and voting on them Monday night make me a little bit nervous. And then I'll just end with 3 questions that maybe someone can answer. One, a lot of support staff have asked me how they get their 40 hours. So if they're losing their 6.5 or 7 on a Friday, I don't know the exact number, and they're making up 35 each day, how do they get back up to their 6 or 7? Are they forced to work at Monday at a different building? 2, how is the allotment time distributed on the early education? So 35 minutes a day, how is that going to be divided K through 6? I've heard recess, I've heard specials, but how much of it is going to end up in instructional time? And then my third question would be, of the 17 days that we have on here, when it says professional development for teachers, how much of that, if it's professional development, how much of that day can they work on lesson plans? Because we only have 3 days or 2.5 days of work out of their Mondays. Everything else is professional development. And so if the desire of the teachers is to have more time to work on lesson plans and having time that they can get prepared, this ratio up here is not answering that desire. So that's my 3 questions.
Dr. Edgar, do you want to try to answer those, or do we want to get back?
So the purpose of the 4-day week, to answer your first question, the purpose of the 4-day week is to recruit teachers, okay? So from a support staff standpoint, and it's all going to be driven by numbers. So the number of students that show up for childcare, the number of students that show up for enrichment, the number of students that come for different things, that's how we're going to find out how many people we're going to need to know. We are behind times because they did have childcare for 30 years. But he also did say that their childcare did not increase very much whenever they went to the 4-day school week. Yeah. And so, so we have hourly employees that will need hours. And we've talked about having shifts, where paraeducators or hourly employees would have the opportunity to come in and we would offer the childcare from, say, 6:30, I'm just using this
Yeah.
as an example, 6:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and we would cover those shifts with those hours
And
employed.
they'd be in different buildings than they already work,
Possibly, yeah.
because we're not gonna have every building open.
Yeah, you can't.
So take secretary at school X, she's gonna be asked to go to school Y and serve in a daycare on Mondays. Okay. And then the allotment of time, I don't know if you can touch on that, just,
Yeah,
I know we have the 35 minutes, but my wife is.
So what's it look like, you mean, at the beginning of the day and the end of the day?
K through six, we have 35 minutes every day extra. How is that gonna be broken down? I understand junior high and high school, we divide it by 7 periods, so just the 35 minutes on the elementary ed.
It'll be proportional.
Okay.
So just like a 7-period day at middle school or high school, we would divvy out those minutes.
But we don't know those minutes right now.
Well, we have DESI requirements that we have to follow
Right.
as elementary teachers of minutes.
Yeah, I understand that, but we have you're losing Friday minutes, and we're gaining some each day. And
Right.
so my question is just like, in our plan, those 35 minutes, how are they distributed throughout the day? Like, is 4 minutes going to recess, 2 minutes on the specials? It's just a curiosity more than like a.
Our instructional minutes will be the same,
Okay.
with a requirement of 1,044 hours in a year. And so that will just be distributed over the 4 days, so it'll all be proportional.
Okay. But just in a layman's term, like right now you have 5 reading lessons a week. Okay? You're losing that 5th reading lesson. Just in a layman's term here.
So take all those minutes and plug them into the 4 days.
But to accomplish a 20-minute reading lesson on a Friday takes 20 minutes. So we out of the 35, we'll be able to secure 20 to 25 minutes for instructional time.
It'll
Just
all be
increase each other
proportional.
5 minutes.
So there'll
Okay.
be more time in reading, more time in math, more time in social studies and science, but it'll all be divvied out. That
Okay.
30 minutes will all be divvied out among those.
All right. And then on the professional development, are those strictly professional development all day, or will they be able to work on lesson plans, classroom organization, IEPs, all that stuff?
Some of that will be. So like this year, we have 3 teacher work days. There's one full one at the beginning of the year. There's a half in October, and there was a half in January. Actually, there was one at the end of the year as well. So we never determine those days until we get rolling into the school year.
Okay.
So a lot of that depends on the professional learning that we set up
Okay.
for the year.
Because obviously their desire is to have them for work.
Right.
Yes.
Right, but right now, I think we have 3 to 4
Okay.
built in for the year.
And that's a good question. I will tell you this, I can help answer that, and I don't see her in here, but I just met with Ashley and Stacia the other day about that very question. And she's gonna define what does a professional development look like, what does teacher workday look like, and the number of
Yeah.
professional development. So I can get that information too. She's actually doing it right now.
I would just hate for our employees to circle wagons and say,
Yeah.
we
Say,
expect
I'm
to
gonna
have
have to go-
17 days where we're gonna work on our classrooms, and really it's 17 days where we're in PD from 8 to 3, and we're not really getting extra
Yeah.
work.
No, and a big piece of that needs to be collaboration
Yeah.
between grade levels and content areas.
Yeah.
One of the things that Jacob had brought up was the support staff, I think. So I spoke briefly with MSTA leadership yesterday, and they brought up a good point that I know when Dr. Edgar has said, who works on Mondays will be dependent on the need. And I think that helps for some people, some of our support staff that are like, well, I hope I'm one of the ones that's needed. But what about if you don't have that need, what happens to me in my hours? What I had assumed would happen is that if an hourly support staff person is not needed on that Monday, they're still gonna be needed extra time Tuesday through Friday, those 4 days, because you're gonna have teachers and kids in the buildings for more time. So to me, you're just kind of separating it by the shifts. And I think MSTA had said, and maybe it was MSTA NEA, that there would be several different schedules of staff under this plan.
Oh, there'll have to be a number of different schedules.
So, you might be, and in my professional life, when we moved to a 4-day week, we started that same kind of thing where we had some early childhood centers that went 5 days. Some staff really wanted to keep that 5-day schedule because they liked getting off at 3:30. I don't know, I take the Friday every day. But then other people wanted to work Tuesday through Friday. So you will have some people that want to work that day. And I think the other thing with independence childcare is that childcare is different than teaching, and childcare is different than I think what you're gonna see on Monday. It's not traditional licensed childcare. They're still gonna be doing a lot of auxiliary activities that you normally would see. They're gonna do PE, but who doesn't love PE? They're gonna do tag games and banana tag and those types of things, so.
Yeah, I think those are all great answers, and I think if we can get that into a informational packet, into something beyond preliminary conversations, then I think the city will have more confidence in our vote. I think the problem is not everyone can sit in a room like this and hear that our admin is equipped to handle these questions. All they see is the preliminary conversations we got at the work session, and it's bare minimum. And so it's like, our board is voting on a lot of, we assume things are in place, and they may be, I don't know, but that's a scary thing for me.
And I think a lot of that is our committee structure is not set up in a way that we can where the community can accurately see the board asking questions of the administration providing answers back, us getting good feedback and not just getting yelled at, and then giving that and working through those problems. So we don't have a lot of time to talk about strategy because everyone's got their agendas to talk about.
All right, thank you.
We need to let others have a chance to speak.
Go ahead to our next one, Donna. Thanks.
Gina Villegas?
Thank you, Dr. Krause. Well, I have a couple of questions and comments. First, with regard to plan time for the 250 minutes a week that we are supposed to have for plan time, if we are adding minutes to content but not plan time, wouldn't we have to plan on Mondays?
I wish I knew the answer to your question.
Or
Gina.
where
That's
will
pretty
we get
simple.
that
Yeah, I
plan
simply
time?
don't. I think the proportion of plan time to instructional time needs to remain the same. And that I don't think there are any plans to do anything differently with that. I know your situation, you're talking about early childhood, correct?
No, I'm just talking like as a teacher.
Oh, well, yeah, as
regular
a teacher, if you're in a 7-period day and your class becomes 5 minutes longer, your plan time is also going to become 5 minutes longer because it's within in your teacher schedule. So yes, if your teaching minutes go up per day, which they will by about 5 minutes a class, it'll depend on what's going to. Your plan time would also go up by 5 minutes because it's in one of your regularly scheduled hours. So there'll be no difference in the proportion of plan time to instructional time.
Okay, well, that would bring us to like 208 minutes instead of 250 minutes of plan time. And my concern is as a member of both teaching organizations, NEA and MSTA, there are still questions with regard to what plan time is going to look like. And so I think that piece, as far as people voting a certain way, and I participated in the survey as well, may have affected how they would have voted, because that's a big question. How are we going to get our plan time? So that's my first question. My next comment comes as a community member and an educator. I'm a St. Joseph native. I've lived here my whole life. My parents are from here. My grandparents are from here. The community that we live in today is not the same as the community that we've had in previous years with regard to being a unified community. So it seems, as with our student population, we are facing a more at-risk population overall. And so my question is, what does research say with regard to behavior for at-risk student populations who attend a 4-day school week? As a middle school teacher, I would think these kids are going to be home for a day. So they're going to experience all of the experience having more liberty, experience having their parents away all day. If they're living in big apartment complexes, which many of our students do, then they're going to be able to go and hang out and visit and spend the whole day unsupervised. And so my concern as a community member and as a teacher is, what are these students going to, how is their behavior going to be on Tuesday once they have gotten a taste of independence?
When we had didn't Dr. Earl mention that their behavioral referrals reduced by 60%? I also have, my previous life, I was a child abuse investigator in Jackson County, and I've reached out to some of my friends there that serve independents, and I'd asked them if they saw any surge since the 4-day week in that community. They had not. And I get where some people would say, well, they're home, so they're not as visible, they're not, with mandated reporters. But I would think you would expect on that Tuesday that they came back, that there would be some consequences. I don't know about any research, I'm just giving you like my personal.
Dr. Krause, is there research on that?
I'm
It's
not
one of
aware,
those
I'm not
gray
aware of
areas.
any.
Yeah.
And really, I could speak to the research, and Kim, you were there, and really the only thing that has been researched is the academic performance.
Right.
Because whenever I went to the State Board of Education meeting, as you were there as well, I was hoping to see some research from
Yeah.
recruitment and retention, from discipline, from attendance, from those types of things. But all the research goes right back to academic performance. So no, there's no research there. But Dr. Hurl did provide that the discipline issues did go down. And I can get that percentage. I'm not going to speak of it off the top of my head, but I'll have him send that to me in an email and get that to you. And that's a good concern.
Because
Good
as a
question.
teacher, I would like to have another day. I have a family, I have, things that I have things that I would like to do on Mondays. But I also, as a St. Joe native, have the concern about the citizens that we are producing for the future. And so that is definitely a concern with regard to behaviors.
Ms. Villegas, do you mind if I comment on that?
No, please do.
Okay, so that is actually my biggest concern as well, are the kids that are at risk. I work with kids who are at risk, and when we don't have our after-school program for snow days or whatever, when they come back riled up. They need to be restructured again, and they have to get used to the schedule, so I understand that. I think when we quote independence, we have to keep in mind that we've been doing it since August. So although they've seen some success, they've also said it's too early to talk about the real factual data. And that's been my concern also is, we haven't let them really finish out their year. We haven't let them finish out their year and complete it and say they were actually very successful that year. And then also going back to the teachers is, were the teachers actually satisfied with the structure? Or did they feel more overwhelmed? Did they have more plan time? Did they not have more plan time? So really allowing them to finish out the process in August, seeing if it was successful, and it's not something that I'm really not completely, but if we're going to quote independence, let's allow them the time to at least finish out the process before we start saying this is going to actually work just like it works for them, because we don't know.
I would make a comment in regards to that, and I totally understand where you're coming from, but I think time is of essence, and I've said all along since day one, and I'm going to continue to say this, the only reason that I support it is to recruit and retain teachers, period. So, I wish I had answers as far as discipline and attendance and those types of things, but we're at a crossroads, and we need to get the very best teachers we can get into our building.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Dennis Weiser? Sorry if I butchered your name.
I'm a dinosaur. I was on the board back in the 1970s and 80s. It sounds like you guys got a real conundrum on your hands. And I don't have enough information, I don't know as any of us have, to intelligently say yay or nay on this at this point. It could hurt some, it could help some. To a lot of us, it'll make not much difference. As a former board member, I think my concerns are procedural. And by that I mean, where is the specific motion that the board members are going to vote on Monday? What does it say? Anybody know? I haven't seen it. Is it available? So they're just going to say, yeah, it's a good idea, or no? I don't know how many of them are going to vote, but how can you intelligently vote on a motion that isn't articulated? And, okay, nobody knows.
Well, the more, it'll be flat out, I think. Do you know what the motion's gonna be?
I don't, I mean, I don't make the motion, but I just told you why I support the 4-day week is because of
It's a
recruiting.
leap of faith.
It's not, I think it's.
It'll
Well,
improve.
I don't think his 4 minutes are up though. Go ahead, Mr. Walker.
Yeah.
Gotten data on this, it's a
Let's
super
rein it in.
recommendation.
This gentleman has the floor right now. Let's please listen to him.
Okay, where I'm coming from is the motion would be articulated to solve a problem or to address an issue. So, is the problem clearly defined? Obviously, you've got a retention problem. I don't know how well that's been researched and defined amongst the administration and the board members this date. It sounds like you're losing way too many teachers, and I assume that somebody's trying to find out why, so that this 4-day solution can correct the problem. In my opinion, salary and livability conditions will help solve the problem as much as anything, but that's not being debated, so let's not go there. One question I have is, have any other alternative solutions been presented to the board? You guys have, I understand you've talked about this for probably the last school year. And in that length of time, this is the only solution that's been put forward? I question that as, I mean, maybe it truly is only the only option, but it sounds a little specious to me that this is the only thing we can come up with. It may be the best solution, but is it the only solution? So, in brief, in closing, I just have procedural questions, and I think those need to be addressed so that when you take a leap of faith on Monday, you have some idea where you're going to go and what the end results are going to be down the line. And that's going to be defined a lot, I think, by how the motion is presented. Because if you just say yes, details to be worked out later, well, the board will be on the hook at that point. Point of no return, I guess you'd call it. So, good luck, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Tom Richmond?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to stand, and I apologize from the beginning. I'm on the planning commission. Our meeting starts at 5:30 at City Hall, so I'm going to try to speak quickly and need to leave immediately. I appreciate everybody that's here, and really many of the comments that have been said, I think have been thoughtful and meaningful, and I reflect some of those, and I'm sure I'll repeat a few of those. Number one, and I think is a central concern that we all share, is we've got to understand and figure out what's best for the children. As a community, our responsibility, our absolute responsibility, is to determine what's best for the children. How do we best support the responsibility that we have to provide the best public education that we can in our community? I'm a product of that. They failed, obviously, when I went through. I have children that were a product of that, and I have grandchildren. And so I speak to that as a community member. I know most people and respect ideas on all sides. The number one asset that we have to complete that responsibility are our teachers. Everybody hear me say that? I absolutely mean that. It's the number one asset that we have, and what makes that an asset certainly is their caring, their character, their ability to teach, but it's also the fact that I submit to you that I think that some of the best quality time, and I'm a pretty responsible parent, now grandparent, some of the best quality time that a child has is when they attend the structure of a school setting. And that when they're in your presence, when they're in your classroom, and you're speaking and working with the passion that you're demonstrating here today. When you're doing that, I think it's some of the best time they have, and the time that puts them in the best position for success in their life. My concern, and I worked in industry, and we struggled with some of these same questions because workload is heavy in every job. And I hope we all respect that too. But as a community, I'm supporting that we stay with a 5-day school week. That we continue to take a look at what are alternatives and ways, how can we do better funding. I understand those things don't happen easily, but I say that not because I'm against our teachers. I have 2 teachers that are my children. I say that because I think that the job you do is so important and so valuable for our #1 priority, and that is the children. The teachers are our #1 asset. We have to protect them. We have to strengthen them. But our #1 responsibility is for the children of our community. And I think the best thing for the children of our community is to have a 5-day school week. Thank you. And I apologize, I have to leave. Mock me after I leave.
After I do? Oh, okay. Lois Mustaine?
Okay, I just want to say that I fundamentally support the 4-day week. I think it would reduce stress on kids, it would reduce stress on teachers, and I think it would hopefully increase the teacher pool to where you could have a better choice of who you're hiring. I don't know if we would see the same results here that Independence saw. Independence is in the Kansas City metro. They have we have farmland to pull from. They have a metro to pull from. We are the metro here. I just don't think it's ready to pass right now. And the reason is because the plan hasn't been put out there. There's lots of questions. We don't know, are we carbon copying what was said in the work session with the Independence superintendent? Because if we are, I have concerns. And one of those concerns is, what about the low-income single mom with 2 to 4 kids that has to pay $30 a day per child? She's paying more in childcare than what she's earning at her job just so she doesn't get fired. And I feel like those parents should be respected enough to be given that information ahead of time and be able to voice their concerns, or, you know. And I also think that there's been other things. I think teacher recruitment and retention is probably multi-pronged, and I think other prongs have been neglected. I don't understand why it was so easy to get a bond on the April ballot, but there's nothing about a level for teacher and support staff pay on the April ballot. And I think when you hear teachers and administrators say, we can't do anything about the kids that are fist punching each other in the classroom. I think teacher retention, like, teachers are being dumped on with kids that need some intervention. And I think there's other things that need to be done. I support the 4-day week, but I think that it's unfair to approve something that is unknown. And I just feel like, I feel like, you know, the horse is being put before the cart a little bit. And I'm just wondering, you know, and I'm wondering why I'm getting some mixed information about, like, things like the childcare and the food service. Are we farming that out, or are we offering that to our already hourly employees.
A little bit of both on the childcare, sorry. Well, we are gonna have partnerships, but we will be using some of our in-kind employees as well. Like I said, the 4-day week is for teachers.
But I don't understand, why are we farming out to other organizations?
Well, we're not farming it out, we're just gonna partner with them.
Okay, I'm completely confused on what that looks, and that's what I'm saying, is I think the plan has not been well-defined. It has not been.
We partner with them right now. We partner with those organizations right now for reporting, school care.
And will there be some bus
Same people it
service?
is now, YMCA, Intercenter.
Will there be some transportation for some kids, but not others? Will there be transportation for all kids? Will there be no transportation for any
Be
kids?
transportation for all kids that participate on Monday. It will be minimal. And what I mean by minimal is that we will not go to your house and pick you up. So there will be routes that are assigned.
There will be neighborhood stops?
Yes, neighborhood stops, yes.
But you would have to be, or is childcare, you have to be there at 8 and you stay till 3? Or is there, I heard something about kids who are not participating in the childcare would still be able to come in for lunch. And I feel like there's things that's just being said and we don't know what's really happening, and that's why I feel like it's not ready to approve right now. Because these details need to be solidified and people need to know what they can count on before approving it, because implementation matters.
Mary Sandus?
I'm here on double duty. I've been teaching in the school district for 10 years, and I also am a regularity and send my kids to the school district with me. And so I want to say first and foremost, I'm so proud to be working for SJSD. Absolutely adore my job. I love what I do every day, and if you don't think we don't worry about our kids, I'm worried about them right now. So taking an extra day off, of course we're going to worry about our kids. But I'm going to talk a little bit on the flip side. 10 years I've seen all of my friends go. I'm the only one that's stuck around. And so I'm on my 4th teaching partner in 4 years. And first I was like, is it me? It's not. Some days it might be, but we got to figure out a way to keep our teachers here. My oldest daughter just graduated with her master's in counseling, and she's a middle school counselor, and she chose Blue Springs. And as a mom, I couldn't tell her no. The pay was massively different. And I want what's best for my kid. So I encouraged her to go. We have to think of something, guys, to keep kids here, or keep the teachers here. We say all the time that the #1 asset for our kids is teachers. And I'm here to tell you that we have some not so great teachers in the classrooms right now. So we have to be competitive. We have to. I have a 4th grader that I'm just trying to get through the ranks. And I'm not going to pull her. But some years it's been tough. It's been tough. And so, I mean, is this something I want to do? No. But is it something that I feel like we need to consider? Yes. Because we cannot keep teachers here. It's constant teachers gone. And we're exhausted. I train a new teacher every year. I go what I'm asked to do. I go to a new grade level if it needs to happen. Like, because I love St. Joe. Like, I want to see it survive, and I'm not going anywhere. So I need help. I'm begging for help. I love my kids. I love this admin. I love my coworkers. We need help. Please help us. That's it.
Do you feel like you can wait a year?
No. We are living alone, and my last point is all we do is talk. We talk about facilities, we talk about behaviors, we talk about attendance, we do nothing. Do it. Do something, guys. Like we gotta have something this year. We need it. We're in the front lines every day seeing what we're dealing with. We need help, like we're begging you guys. Because we're not going anywhere. And you wanna know why? We love our kids. I'm here to stay, so help me out. I'm begging, like we need help. That's it. I mean, and like I said, my kids are gonna never leave. We honestly, my husband and I, we are the only part of my family who is not sending our kids to Catholic school because we love diversity. We want our kids to be exposed to every kid. And I don't want to make that change for my kid.
but it's not been good. She's not getting the education that I feel she deserves. She can't be in my room. So every year she's getting with a new teacher. Every teacher has left her. Every teacher from the year before is at another district now. So we have to think of a way to like get our teachers to stay or get the ones to come back. And if it can't be money, and I would be so willing to go in on a Monday and help my, I mean, I would do it whatever I need to do to go in on a Monday and help my kids out. Because let's be real, attendance is not great. So most of our kids are already doing a 4-day work week, right? So let me have a Monday where I can bring some of those kids back to me and say, let's catch up. And if they don't come, there's nothing else I can do, but I will be there. Like I will do whatever I need to do to help this district. Like that's what I want. So you guys gotta help us too. I'm begging you. That's it. I love this district. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate all of you here. And even if I don't agree with you, it's fine. We need to learn to like respectfully disagree with each other because our people are watching us. So anytime we argue and fight with each other, they're watching that. And new teachers don't want to come when the climate and culture is like that. We gotta put our kids first. It has to happen. Please put our kids first. These are 2 teachers I teach with, second year. I love them. I want them to stay. They're here because I asked them to. Get involved, guys. Like, preach. We need our teachers to speak. We're the ones doing it. I'm sure my 4 minutes are up. Thank you so much. Please, please, please help us out. I love my kids. We worry about them no matter what. I guarantee teachers are going to step forward on a Monday because we love our jobs. We love it. We're going to do whatever we can do to help our kids. So give it a try. If it doesn't work, we'll go back. We did it during COVID. We were doing hybrid one day and it was fine. And my last point is I'm a mom of 3 daughters. Every Sunday I spend 6 hours at my dining room table with the Sunday scaries, planning my week. And then I see an hour before school and an hour after school, and then my daughter's a cheerleader at Lafayette. We're so involved. I spent 13 off-contract hours last week because I kept track. That's a Monday. That's 2 Mondays. Almost. I'm not great at math. I really, really, really respect everybody in here, but let's remember our kids and put them first, okay?
Clayton Bosch.
Thanks for letting me speak. I just kind of had 2 questions based off of some stuff that's heard. Kind of piggybacking off of what you said earlier. My concern is with this being the only option or solution that I've had at least brought before me so far. If this doesn't fail, or if this doesn't go through, I heard the comment earlier, could we wait a year? I just have a hard time with that because I'm having to go back tomorrow and see those same kids, and that's like them coming up, hey, Mr. Bosch, I'm having a hard time with this. I'm not going to say, wait till next week. No, if they need that help, they need that now. So I guess my concern is if, and I don't think, and if I missed it, I apologize, but what is our next option? And if we don't have an option, do we have a date set where we want to have that figured out? Because I don't mind waiting a year. I want to be here. I'm happy to be here. Most of my friends have already left. So I don't mind waiting a year. I'm just more worried about the candidates that are going to come in and lead a bigger achievement gap in which we're already working extremely hard, crossing schools, crossing grades, just to try to bridge this gap, but with more qualified candidates and more teachers who are willing to be here, not for that 1 year where they rock the boat a little bit and then they leave, but how can we lead to lasting change with teachers that are going to be here, developing, creating that normal routine. Because we talk about routine at school, but those kids want routine in their teachers. I'm at my 2nd school this year, and I know it breaks my heart every time I see my kids. I miss you. See kids, oh, I wanted to have you whenever I was in that grade. So when we're losing teachers, we're still losing that consistency for those kids. So do we have another option, or do we have a date in which another option would be presented?
The only other discussion that I've heard of is a levy. Well, again, I'm only 1 of 7, so you gotta think of that. The only other discussion I've heard of is a levy. We'd have to have it approved by the May board meeting. It would be put on a ballot, so I can't guarantee you that it will pass. It'd have to be voted on, and then it'd take 2 years to get you that raise. So maybe you could wait 2 years.
And then my next question, the last question I have is, so the thing that's being voted on Monday, is that right?
What, Reba?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, go ahead.
Oh, the motion for Monday, is that in writing yet? And I understand, like, or when will that be publicized? So we're aware of what's being approved or voted on Monday.
We don't typically publish motions.
The motion's not been made yet, it has to be made
During the meeting.
by a board member at the meeting.
Okay. All right, because I remember on the surveys, in the comment section, I know myself and a lot of my colleagues were saying, well, we'd like to see more of the plan. And I just feel consistent conversation is, well, we'd love to support it if it's done right, which I hear a lot of us saying, but I don't know if we can wait a year and let that gap grow. So, thanks for letting me share.
I cannot read your handwriting.
It's not
I'm
mine.
so
it's
sorry.
mine.
Yeah. But you're next. I'm so sorry.
Well, I'm not opposed to the 4-day work week. I think it'd be great for retention and all that. I don't know of a lot of jobs that wouldn't want a 4-day work week and still get the same pay. I don't know. And you're 65%, what did the other 35%, what did they want? Mr. Jones?
Yes. So, I think, you know, for the 35% that voted, there's various concerns, depending on where they work, the impact, you know, and so just some, you know, fact. And we represent both faculty and staff. And so there maybe was some concern from the staff side because of many of the questions that were asked here, you know. But it's a clear majority among the teachers.
But you still had 35% that weren't for it?
Yes.
The NEA survey, it was 65% in favor of it, 35% weren't against it.
Right.
It was about split, that 35%, half of them were neutral.
Yeah.
It was the other half that were against, so it's a pretty small number of folks that were
they're
against.
strongly against. Yeah, that's an accurate statement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I understand there were some funds involved in the state of Missouri. If you go 4-day work or 4-day week as opposed to 5, the Missouri funds are not available as much. Is that correct? Came out of that independence.
I can speak to that. And this is the only thing that I've heard, is that there's a bill being proposed by a Democrat in South Missouri that states that if you work if you're in a populace, if your population is over 30,000 and you work a 5-day week, then you would be funded more for a 5-day. So your foundation formula, you would get more money in your foundation formula if you went 5 days versus 4. Today was the first day I saw it. And obviously this is an election year, and I can't imagine anything happening in an election year. And then also being proposed from the Democrat ticket, you know, obviously you know who's in charge of the Senate and the House, state of Missouri. So that's the only thing I've seen in regards to that.
Was my understanding of the man from Independence when he was up, he mentioned something about losing money on not having that 5th day as opposed to 4 days?
Well, it's going to cost you a little bit more. Okay, maybe I'm understanding you now. So you get transportation reimbursement. If you go 5 days a week, you get transportation reimbursement 5 days a week. On that day off, we will not get transportation reimbursement. If you go 5 days a week, you get food service reimbursement. We would not get that food service reimbursement, so that cost would be on us as a school district. Is that what you're speaking to?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
There was some kind of funding involved, but I don't know. I'll have to
Well, that funding would come from the state, so food service and transportation, they're 2 different pots of money, but they do come from the state of Missouri, and we wouldn't get reimbursed for that. Whereas we do in a 5-day week.
I did read an article that said there was at least one bill proposed that gave, if you were a district with a 5-day week, that there was a small, which it was a very
2%,
small,
wasn't it?
a small incentive. It wasn't a reimbursement, it was an incentive to be a 5-day district.
Yeah, and I think it was like a 2% incentive.
I don't remember.
I read it
It's
this morning,
very
that's the
small.
first time I've seen it.
Right, there was, and I think there was another couple of incentive type things, but they were like ridiculously, I think a small teacher pay incentive. But they were very, very small, like barely worth mentioning.
There's also a bill to do away with 4-day all across the board, so.
Were you done with your comment?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, let's,
It's also my understanding that those students that need the help are supposed to come back on a Monday and get remedial help or something along that line, is that correct? And that's a small percentage of the people that come back, like it's only 25% according to what I heard from the man from Independence.
Yeah.
It's like 10%.
So am I supposed to be speaking, or?
Sorry,
I got here late.
Anybody's got an answer?
Okay, so, what happened in Independence, and this was his biggest concern, and I saw Dr. Earl twice last week, and he expressed this to me, and it was a big concern of his, was that they identified 2,500 students who needed help, okay, on that Monday, and only 212 of those students showed up. So it's 10%.
Pretty low.
Very low.
And those were the ones that were one grade or more behind, I think is what he said.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
That he used as an example,
Yeah.
and I don't know that every one of those kids were one grade behind. Yes, that's the example that he used.
Has a test
And
Oh,
that
score,
was child, we've heard that a lot, a lot.
has the test scores gone up for those in a 4-day week?
We do not know.
No effect on our good.
It's no effect at all. There's been no effect at all from the academic side.
So DESE has, for Independence, but DESE, they had a study back in February, but when we went to Jefferson City, the majority of the board members went and they sat at the meeting and they heard the DESE study. Like Dr. Edgar said, most of the study was focused on academics and not behavior or attendance or anything like that. So they found that there was no impact to academics, so it didn't help, it didn't hurt. There's like a slight, like 1.5% or 0.5% of negative effect, but for the most part, it didn't really do anything.
My other concern, my last point, and I appreciate Tom's input on doing it for the kids, because we have a lot of students that are in a bad home environment, and you're taking them out of something that's somewhat secure in a school and putting them back in that home environment that may or may not be safe for them. And they're missing out on the meals, they're missing out on the structured learning, and that, I'll leave it at that. But I'm not opposed to the 4-day week. I think it'd probably be great for retention, but I'm not so sure it's good for the kids. And I'll leave it at that.
anybody else, Donna? Okay, that's the end of our agenda items. We'll consider the meeting officially adjourned. The board meeting is Monday, 5:30, and that is a action item on the board. And there'll be an opportunity for public comment there if you or anybody you know wants to participate in that. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.